So I don't think this is going to be breaking news for anyone in our audience, but Donald Trump was federally indicted this week. I'm John Cooper from Counterpoint Politics, here with Desmond Price, host of the Independent Thought Podcast, and Dr. Erica, host of Cocktails and Capitalism. And we'll be talking about the indictment right here on the Left Wing. So let's jump into the details of the case, and then we can talk about the politics of it and how it'll affect the 2024 election moving forward. This case is about classified documents which Trump took from the White House after leaving office. And they're not just run-of-the-mill documents either. These are highly classified documents that include military strategies, nuclear response plans, and vulnerabilities not just in our own national defense, but also vulnerabilities of several allied nations. What makes this case so special and so funny, really, is that the details of the indictment read like a step-by-step retort of every defense Trump's team has tried to make so far. Probably because Trump's an idiot and put all of his defenses out in public so that prosecutors could craft a slam dunk case against him. We know for a fact that he took over 300 classified documents. We know that he showed them to people on at least 2 occasions, because he was literally recorded doing so. We know that Trump was aware that the documents were classified because he said, and this is a direct quote that he said on tape, "As president, I could have declassified them. Now I can't, but it's still a secret." He also told representatives from his PAC, his political action committee, that he shouldn't be showing him the documents and that he should step back just in case, as if proximity would somehow make his actions less illegal. And the most damning part of all of this for Trump is that he repeatedly lied to investigators and tried to impede the investigation. He instructed his aides to hide documents. He lied about returning all of them on 2 separate occasions when he had not. And he even lied to his own attorneys, 2 of which, John Rowley and Jim Trusty, and I looked that up, that's actually his name. Literally, they quit his legal team upon reading the indictment. So pretty bad. I'm not a lawyer, but pretty bad as far as indictments go. What do you guys think about the situation?
I also heard that alongside his staffers quitting, that prior to them quitting, he was having a meeting with them, and he was kind of bragging about how great the Hillary Clinton lawyers were in that case. Kind of because for those who are unfamiliar, Hillary Clinton was also kind of came under fire for mishandling of classified documents, to which Trump still to this day
I hadn't heard about that.
Has lock her up chance in all of his rallies. So it's almost like it was a big deal to mishandle classified information until Trump did it, but separate story somehow. So yeah, Trump was mentioning to his lawyers that in that particular case, Hillary Clinton's lawyers basically just took the whole brunt of that and just said that, we mishandled the 30,000 like emails, so on and so forth. Trump telling his lawyers, weren't they great? Wasn't it great what her lawyers did for her? And then subsequently after that, 2 of his lawyers left. So I think that is absolutely hilarious. Obviously the writing was on the wall, and other staffers were describing the fact that, they would go into some of the rooms where these documents were and just open the doors and documents would just come spilling out onto the floor. So
the documents are just in piles in a bathroom. Like if this is my storage system I had in college. There's empty space, throw some crap in there. And these are national security secrets. And again, not just for us, for our allies as well, which I would be so pissed if I were them.
Can you imagine being one of these staff at Mar-a-Lago and going in to use the bathroom right next to, sitting underneath a chandelier and next to these national security secrets that are just filling up and overflowing out the bathroom? What the hell? This is so crazy.
Wipe your ass with the nuclear codes.
Yeah, totally. And just the pure hubris that he has to have to think, even after they asked for these documents back, he refused to give them back. He could have gotten out of all of this, and yet he did not. He chose to not get out of this trouble that he's in now. So, I'm glad that it's biting him in the ass, and that it's, that the case against him is so strong for once, it's all laid out. It gives me a lot of hope, but also, I don't know, we've seen so many things thrown at Trump, and it just seems to make him stronger every time. It makes me absolutely crazy thinking that some people are saying that this might actually make him do better in the election than if this hadn't happened, because he's just going to say, oh, witch hunt, witch hunt, witch hunt. And everyone's going to say, oh, yeah, okay, well, we got to back up Trump. Everyone's against him, and this is all made up or whatever, That part just I can't get over.
It's a great question to ask. Is this actually going to hurt him in the election? I mean, you would say, well, like, yeah, if he goes to jail, obviously, but actually, maybe not. Maybe that actually might help him. This is the thing that I've been thinking about over the last week or so as we've been hearing this news kind of trickle down. Is this going to end up helping Donald Trump in the 2024 election? And I'm kind of two minds on this. But John, which way are you leaning on this?
I think that this is a pretty damning indictment. I think that unlike the previous, the impeachments, which are political trials, this is a legal trial, and it just seems pretty airtight. You have Republicans right now saying like, oh, it's a banana republic. Biden's, going against his political opponents. But like, as long as they stick to their messaging on this one, I do think the average American will see through it, because he's being indicted by a jury of his peers. The judge overseeing the case was appointed by him. The director of the FBI was appointed by him. Like, the law that he broke was upgraded from a misdemeanor to a felony by him. Like, there's just, he made all of this himself. There's very little room to wiggle out of it. And the knee-jerk reaction of, oh, well, this is unprecedented. How dare Biden do this? Like, first of all, Biden didn't actually do this. Like, this is not like Biden's directing the DOJ to go after Donald Trump. This is an ongoing case that Trump has literally, on several occasions, he could have just handed over the documents and probably would have been fine, and he just didn't do it. And because honestly, it probably was still breaking the law, but they probably would have gone after him if he just cooperated with the police.
Yeah.
Which is what these people want people to do, right? And so that's the giant hypocrisy black hole of all of this is just well, taken to the logical conclusion of Republicans' arguments right now, that means that any political person running for office should be above the law, which is not the beliefs of the average American or even the average Republican.
But the average Trump fan, the folks who, I mean, the vast majority of Republicans have a fairly high impression of him still. The polling is pretty good for him. So I don't know. I hope that it's damning, but I fear that his base is so far gone in terms of listening to reason, listening to logic, listening to the facts of what's happening in the world, that it's not going to matter to them. And then, as we've seen in the past, all the other people on the right just line up behind him once he's won. So I fear that we could just find ourselves back with him at the helm of this fucking country, and we can't do anything about it, even though he is this person touting law and order, and he's breaking some of the most important laws in this country. Insane.
I know Desmond and I mentioned before, I think, and I believe Desmond is still on this boat, the best chance for the Democrats and Joe Biden is if Trump does win the nomination, because this stuff, as you said, his base will eat it up. He's fine with his base, but his base didn't win him the 2020 election, and it's not going to win him the 2024 election. And this kind of thing is going to be damning if he gets up on a debate stage and has to kind of answer for it on national television. I just don't see him being able to successfully pull that off. What do you think, Desmond?
I don't know if I'm with you this time.
Really?
Yeah. As I was going through and seeing the reaction to this story, I came across somebody. It actually made me laugh a little bit. Somebody who shared a meme. Who it was the Bill Murray meme on Groundhog's Day. It basically would just say oh, it's we finally caught Trump again day. And I'm not gonna lie. looking at the specifics of this and the 3 indictments that were pending for Trump at the start of 2023, obviously the thing that happened with E. Jean Carroll, and then with this case, and then the one that still might come out of Fulton County in Georgia, where he was on the phone with the Secretary of State for Georgia saying, find me 11,000 votes. I still think that's the strongest case, personally speaking, because just for the simple fact that after Trump made such a huge deal out of election fraud, election interference, to have him on the phone asking to interfere with the election, that one, even for his own followers, I think is incredibly damning. This one, I think for the average person, this one, if you don't hate Trump, if you're an independent, I think this one feels almost like a nothing burger in a way, just because we're talking about documents that she didn't give back. Like, yes, he committed a crime. Yes, this was illegal. Yes, he's lying to cover it up. But the question for my mind is like, does the average person think this is actually a big deal? Is this worth locking up Donald Trump over? If you're a Democrat, you've been waiting for any chance to lock up Donald Trump. So you're like, you'll take any chance you can get. If you're a Republican, he's an angel, doesn't matter. But the people in the middle, right? The people who make up every election, the people who are in the middle in Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Georgia, Arizona, Nevada, how do they feel about this? Because those are the people who determine the presidential elections, if we're just being honest, and this is talking about politics, right? So it's going to sound controversial, but Biden might be in a better position if he pardoned him.
Oh, God.
No.
Oh, my
Don't
God.
Said it.
Don't even put it out there, Desmond, because he'll do it. He'll
I
do
said
it.
No, don't say it. Cut that. Strike that from the record.
I do not represent the beliefs of my other 2 co-hosts, just my own. So
I actually, like, since I'm like, if I'm thinking about it from a political perspective, it is a massive power move to pardon him. Like, it is, it can really, it'll piss us off, but everything he does pisses us off. So, like, he obviously doesn't give a shit.
Just Biden
and
being
like,
pure Biden.
yeah, like, politically speaking, but he'd have to be convicted first, which I don't think will happen before the election. So I like, as much as that is an interesting thought experiment, I don't think logistically it'll work out that way.
His trial
Really?
his trial is set for March of 2024.
Oh, did they, like, okay, I didn't even realize that. So they made it quicker for this purpose.
Yeah.
Okay.
But regardless, I mean, no matter what happens, he's going to challenge the results of that. It's going to keep being pushed forward because he has enough money to pour into the legal system to keep, not having to deal with the consequences of his actions. So
no, you're true. Unless Biden reaches out and says, accept the plea, because I'm just going to pardon you afterwards.
Oh my God, I'd never even thought of that. That is blowing my mind.
I know I'm making the case here, but I'm just saying it actually helps Biden out, because not only does it make him look better with the independents, but then also it does put on the fact that, hey, Trump's just one of us. He's above the law like the rest of us. He commits a crime and he gets off with it, just like the rest of us. He's a part of the swamp that he claims he's not a part of.
So, Desmond, I'm being forced to think about this, and while I do think you're right on, like, a generic Republican, generic Democrat perspective, Biden has based so much of his rhetoric and his identity as being anti-Trump. He goes and he's like, oh, we have to stop MAGA extremism. I don't think that rhetoric, which he will have to continue to lean on going into the campaign, especially if it's against Donald Trump, jives with, oh, but I pardoned him. Like I just don't think he can do both, and that has been proven successful already, and I don't think he'll want to change up the strategy. So I don't know. Like, it could go either way, but I just hope to God he doesn't pardon him.
Well, there's 2 things to say about this. I'll kind of conclude my thoughts with this. On one hand, to what he can do based on what he has said, that would completely line up with his presidency. He said he would give us a $15 minimum wage, chucked it out. He said he would give $2,000, stimulus checks. Nah, $1,400. He said he'd be the most pro-labor president ever. Nah, let's side with the rail workers or the rail bosses and make sure that the workers get, stymied a little bit. He said that we would have a public option, has never mentioned it, while he's been in office. He said that he would be climate friendly. And now he's actually what did we say, Erica? He's actually authorized more permits than Trump did in his 4 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hundreds
So,
of
I mean,
them.
when you're talking about Biden and what he says versus what he does, it's a perfect lockstep. This is exactly who he is. But, let me just conclude by saying this in all seriousness. I don't think that he should. I was just talking about in like a political sense, but Trump deserves to go to jail. It's pure as simple. And this is something that I've been saying online when people talk to me about this. It's just like, oh, well, misapplication of the law. They apply to some people, they don't apply to other people. Look, I actually agree with that to a degree. If somebody commits a crime, especially someone who's in a position of power, like a president, they should be tried for that crime, whoever they are. I know that currently Joe Biden's being investigated for connections with Burisma and taking payments when he was vice president under the Obama administration. If Joe Biden committed a crime, Joe Biden should be tried for that crime. Like that, I don't play politics with this. It should just be that we should be normalizing politicians being prosecuted for crimes they committed, not saying that, oh, well, they're the president, so we can't do it or else it'll look political. No, that standard needs to be what goes into the dustbin of history as far as I'm concerned.
Trump may have Mr. Magoo'd his way into actually draining the swamp if this does set off a chain reaction of counter litigations against different political leaders. Like it honestly, like that is a scenario which I could see playing out. Everyone just cannibalizing each other. But what you mentioned earlier, Desmond, that do most Americans care about this?
Yeah,
I think that is a pivotal question here, and it's something that our audience should especially think about themselves. Of like, we think of these, because I kind of feel the same way. Like my own personal bias is like, yeah, it's some fucking documents. Like it's dumb. It's all stupid. But also, we send people to jail for 20 years for having a little weed on them. Like we look at shoplifters and go, oh my God, how dare they shoplift? And it's like, well, that is about 1,000 million times less significant than what Trump did. Even as stupid as what Trump did is, and how personally I don't care too much about it. If those documents got into the wrong people's hands, we could have, our spies abroad being burned. We could have, major, just the amount of redoing of military strategy that's going to have to be done now is going to cost the taxpayer millions of dollars, because none of those strategies can be relied upon anymore because they might be public knowledge to our enemies. And that is way worse than any petty crime that's ever been committed in this country. And we should view it that way.
Yeah. Imagine the folks attending a concert in Atlanta at the site of future Cop City and getting domestic terrorism charges for having mud on their shoes. This guy is our most precious military secrets. It doesn't even matter to him. So